are on BBH's Board Bettina, and we have a very special guest with us here today, Sir John Hegarty. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This must be your nth year at Cannes Lions, isn't it?
Yes, I have been coming for a number of years and have seen quite a few changes. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's almost now. You know, we were just saying earlier, it's almost now a technology. Yeah. Conference rather than, or festival rather than a creative festival, which
yes,
I think
it feels like you know, CES plus the creatives,
yeah.
Doesn't it? Because there is technology everywhere, whether it is the brands that are advertising at Cannes Lions or you know, the kind of work that is winning at Cannes Lions. So what do you think of this change?
Well, you know, I'm always, you know, I think technology and creativity have always gone hand in hand, but you know, I try and say to people, you know, technology enables opportunity. It's creativity that creates value. Technology is just the means by which I can communicate and the means by which I can talk to people, but actually it's the message within that that is fundamentally important, and I do think Cannes is in danger of losing that sense of it's the creativity that we've come here to celebrate. Obviously, you know, there are many ways of communicating with people, but ultimately, you know, a big idea is what people need. And people keep saying this, but they talk about it, but then don't do it, which is rather peculiar. Are
you happy with the overpowering presence of technology that has increased over the past few years?
Well, you know, actually, I do love technology. I mean, I try and partake of it. I use it. You know, one forgets that, you know, the invention of the moving camera meant that the cinema industry was born. That was an amazing piece of technology. Television is an amazing piece of technology that I can project a picture into somebody's home. So we've always been about technology. But as I say, I think today the emphasis has moved too much onto the technology and not enough onto the creativity that employs that technology.
Technology taking over advertising, is that what you feel, especially at Cannes Lions?
Well, it's, you know, it's an opportunity for
Is it taking over?
But is it taking over? I probably would say it is taking over. There's an over-focus on it rather than an employment of it. And as I said, technology enables opportunity. So that's brilliant. But it's the creativity that will create the value.
You just mentioned how technology creates opportunity. You know, can you give or share instances where technology has been the handmaiden for creativity?
Well, you know, the other thing I always say is that advertising is 80% idea. It's also 80% technique. It's also 80% craft. You know, so it always, in whatever you're doing, technology plays a fundamental part. You know, the cinema industry was created out of technology. The fact that I could, you know, tell a story without using words was amazing, because I could just close in on somebody's face and that face would tell you what they were feeling and thinking. So you're always using technology all the time. But at the moment, most of the technology is a delivery medium. It's not a creative medium. So is social media creative, or does it employ creativity to be part of a message? And I think really a lot of social media employs creativity to be part of the message. And we've got to start somewhere with the idea, and that's the most important.
But there are no examples where, you know, it has played a handmaiden to creativity.
But you can't separate them. You know, when you say it's a handmaid, it's you know, that's why I'm trying to get people to stop for a moment and say, you know, without technology, all we'd be able to do is tell each other a story, sing a song, and paint a picture with a bit of stick. And even that, and that would be it. But the invention of the paintbrush meant you could paint a better picture. Whoever invented the piano meant that you could write a piece of music in a more interesting way. All those things are technology. It isn't as though suddenly technology's appeared. What I think is happening is that we're seeing an explosion of technology and opportunity to such an extent that we're forgetting that actually it's the message that really matters. And so people kind of talk about, you know, having a social media campaign, and you go, well, fine, that's brilliant, I love it. What are you going to say? How are you going to link your brand together? And I think, again, you know, I sort of say principles remain, practices change. And I think the principles of marketing, the principles of communication remain exactly the same. The means by which I can communicate that may have changed. And it's just important to understand that, not to get principles and practices confused, and I think that's what's happening today.
You know, you've always talked about how a creative should remove the headphones and listen and observe and see what is going on around him. But with so much of overflow of information around us, how does an individual manage that?
Well, I think it's very important, because I think, you know, real life is much more interesting than digital life. And if you think you're going to spend your life in a digital sphere, then you're going to have a very, very shallow life. And the other thing for a creative person, if you've seen it digitally, it's been done. You know, the great beauty of walking around and just observing is you will see something that is truly fresh, truly, in a way, I almost say original, because nobody else has seen it. You've seen it. And if you don't do that, then your creative experiences, your ability to communicate will diminish, because you'll have fewer and fewer reference points. And I think it's very important for creative people to understand you're a kind of messenger. You're telling stories. And the more interesting things that you absorb, the more interesting your stories become. If you sit in front of a screen all day, or looking at a screen or whatever, you're seeing what's being done. I'm not interested in what's being done. I'm interested in things that haven't been done. That's what turns me on, and that's what I like to explore. And of course, seeing all these things is important. But if you don't take the headphones off, and I mean that in a metaphorical sense as well as a physical sense, you won't see what's going on around you. You won't see, you know, wonderful stories. You won't see incidences. You won't be able to put things into your work that are truly original. You know, I could look at a lot of my work, and I could tell you things that are in there are things that I saw, things I observed, things that happened to me that I was able to bring in to my work.
You will automatically get a better insight of, you know, the idea that you're planning to put forth.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see life. I mean, we've got to remember that most people don't spend their life looking at a screen. They actually do talk to each other, and they converse, and they chat, and they do things, and they wander around, and things happen to them. That isn't digital, that it is actually real life, and that's what we've got to reflect and bring to them. And it's very important. You know, I constantly say, you know, I work in advertising, I don't live in advertising. And there's always a danger in any industry that you become a bubble. You know, you live in this bubble. And, you know, the vast majority of people we talk to don't live in this bubble. They live in a place called the world. And we've got to see that and reflect that and bring it back to them with digital thoughts.
And eventually we are talking to the same people who don't live in the bubble.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's very important that you can see. You know, we were talking today about movies, and I think movies are still culturally important. They drive cultural change. And we were talking today about, you know, Spotlight, which won the Academy Award, a movie about the Catholic Church and paedophilia and all those things. And it was a way of bringing that sort of story to people on the big screen that was really profound, and it was an amazing movie. I hope everybody goes to see it, because it is a fantastic piece of storytelling, but it shows how cinema drives cultural change, and that's what you're trying to do.